In this video we will be completely disassembling the SSG10 A1. It's gonna be a total of 4 videos. We will do the complete disassembly, and the trigger box will be a separate disassembly and assembly specifically about the trigger box. So if you need the trigger box, check those videos out. And now, without further ado, let's get started. First things first, make sure there is no BBs on the inside, no magazine inside. Let's fire one shot in a safe direction to make sure it's completely empty. And now we can start disassembling by removing these 3 screws. So we take our toolkit or Allen key set and we start unscrewing. Here in the front we have the shortest screw out of the 3. The middle one is a bit longer, so we take that one out, and here we actually have a Phillips head screw, so we take the biggest Phillips head that we actually have just to protect the screw and make sure that we don't slip. We don't want that. All right, now we have all these 3 screws, we set them aside, and we can now lift the stock off. Now we will remove the trigger box. Again, we have Phillips head screws here, 2 of them. Now here we have the trigger box. I will keep the screws there so they are organized. If you need to get inside of this, I will do a separate disassembly and assembly on the trigger box in separate videos. So let's move on to the barrel in this video. First things first, we can remove the magazine block that is actually holding the magazine. Again, Phillips head screwdriver, 1 screw out, and 2nd screw goes out as well. As you can see, they are the same length, so we can actually put them What I would suggest is keeping the screws in place, so I will put them back where they belong so I don't have too many screws laying around. Also, you could remove these springs. There are just 2 screws right there. These are actually the pop-out springs. I'm gonna keep them there. There is very little reason to remove them, replace them, but if you would want to, now you know you can, just 2 screws out. All right, I will take a slightly smaller Phillips head and I will remove the hop-up adjustment arm. Notice that how the screw looks like. I would suggest to keep these 2 again together so you don't accidentally swap the screws. There is actually another similar screw on the inside, so make sure you keep these organized. Next, we can unlock the barrel. Before you actually remove this one, maybe there is no need to do that. I will show you anyway, or actually I will leave it there and I will show you that you can remove the barrel without doing that. So you can unscrew the end cap. You will be screwing it in as a normal screw, and that will unscrew it because this is a reversed thread. It's a counterclockwise thread. So unscrewing actually works as if you would be screwing a normal screw. So do it the other way around. Now we can remove this. Just slides out because we don't have the trigger box anymore. And we can actually get this out by pushing it from here once we remove the end cap. So pull straight out and you can get it out just like that. Now, if you want to do so, we can remove this one as well with a bigger Phillips head, but you will add extra step when you are assembling it. More on that in the assembly video. I will set the screw aside and now we can unscrew it. If you don't need to do this, I would suggest keeping it on there with the screw in place. Barrel is at this point just a pipe. We can set that aside. Now, before we move on to the Picatinny and the other parts, there is one glide ring hiding likely inside of the receiver, so make sure to take it out, or it could possibly also stay in the barrel, so just find it, set it aside, note that it's there, and we will continue. Now we will do the Picatinny, because one of the screws is actually a little bit shorter, and I want to show you which one it is. It's actually this one in the front of the barrel end. This screw is the shortest one, and then the rest are all the same screws, so you could mix these up and nothing happens. The short one, you need to remember that it's here in the front. If you would mix the short one and you would replace it with the long one, you will encounter issues with the barrel thread, because here actually the barrel thread goes in and you would scratch this thread right here. So make sure that you identify the short one and you keep it here in the front where the barrel goes in. That's why it's shorter. And again, I would advise you to keep the screws organized, so I'm just gonna put them back in the holes. And now we will just set it aside like so. We can remove the end piece right here. There is no more to disassemble here, and the receiver at this point is also completely empty. So we set it aside, and now we will continue with this. We will completely disassemble it, and then we move on to the barrel. All right, if you cannot unscrew this with your hand, there are a couple of options. The easiest one is probably an Allen key. Put it in one of those holes, and you can unscrew it like so. Or alternatively, you can use needle nose pliers, Leatherman, that will actually fit inside of these holes, and you can use that to actually also get it going. Once you do that, you can just keep going with your fingers. We have the cylinder head, we set it aside. We have the piston, we put it aside as well. Then we have the spring, and last but not least, the spring guide. Now the only thing left is this end cap, which we can also remove. Again, if there is no reason to remove it, I would suggest keeping it there, because the screw is actually screw glued in place. We don't want it to start coming loose when you rack the bolt, so there is screw glue. It might require a bit of force to undo this one. You will see some screw glue residues on it. When we remove the end cap, you will see that there is a pin right there and also a small spring. Don't lose them. At this point, it's completely disassembled. All right, we set these parts aside, and now we will move on to the barrel. First things first, let's get rid of this centering ring. We will make a bit of space, and we can zoom in the top camera so you can actually see better what I'm doing. All right, we have the camera zoomed in, so let's get going. We will just start removing all these screws, and then we will have just a bunch of parts that might feel intimidating, the number of them, because it's quite a few, but don't worry, it's not rocket science. I will show you in the assembly video how to put it together. So just make sure that you are doing this in a place with empty space, so you don't lose small pins or small springs. So we remove these two. We can continue with this one. This is the one that you can actually accidentally exchange with this one. This one has a finer thread. That one belongs here, and this one goes into plastic, so this one is a little bit more coarse threads. That's how you can differentiate them. Maybe you will be able to see the difference on the top camera. Make sure to keep these separate. From the top, they actually look exactly the same, so be careful with that. Finer thread goes here. All right, then we have two more screws that are holding the chamber together. These again have fine threads, and they are longer than these two because they go into metal. The other ones go into plastic. All right, there we go. And now we will just remove all the different parts and we will set them aside. So this part is already completely empty. Here you see that we have a shim right there. So let's put it aside. Now we will take this bridge with the spring on there. We have this part here. Be careful, there is a pin and a small tiny little spring is hiding underneath that. Let's get it out so you can see. Tiny little spring, tiny little pin. Stay away from fluffy carpets. We take the barrel with the bucking off. Now we have the pressure arm, and there is one more shim hiding on the pin itself, as well as this little sleeve. Let's get the shim out. Now you don't have to take the shim off. It's actually better to leave it there, but I want to have everything separated for the next assembly video, so I'm gonna take it off. And at this point it's completely empty, there is nothing more in there. Now if we want to take off the bucking, here we can take off this ring. You could take it off like that, or you could potentially even leave it on there and just take off the bucking. Again, I will take it off. Here we have another ring that could be removed, but that one holds quite securely. Don't do this unless you want to replicate exactly what I'm doing. You can just leave it there, no problem with that. At this point, we have it completely disassembled, at least when it comes to this. There is one more thing that we can actually unscrew, and that is this button right here. We can actually take it apart. I'm gonna do it at the end of this video, because chances are nobody really will need to do that, but again, we want to have the complete disassembly, so let's just go ahead and take it out. There are two screws, which allows me to lift this whole plate. Again, I'm gonna keep the screws together so I don't mix them up. And then there is a spring-loaded mechanism that you can just take out like so. And at this point we are done. If you would want to remove the trigger guard, you can also do that by lifting it and pushing it forward. And at this point you can also take it off. All right, and at this point we have the SSG10A1 completely disassembled. Now we will assemble it back together in the next video, and the trigger box will be separate.